Things definitely got interesting last night. We were checking out Tropical Storm Gonzalo. We had a 7.8 earthquake strike this morning in Alaska. We'll touch on that as well. And not to mention, we are now at an 80% chance of cyclone formation in the Gulf of Mexico. That could be Tropical Storm Hannah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. July 22nd, 2020, 2:54 p.m. And overnight last night, as expected, Tropical Storm Gonzalo, officially now a tropical storm. Obviously, as you can see, the symbol here on the all disturbances chart is now that red hurricane symbol. We always look for that. But take a look at the Gulf. We have an 80% chance now of that invest becoming a possible cyclone within the Gulf. It still has enough time to form and do some damage here near Texas and the western part of Louisiana. That's what it looks like. We'll talk about that briefly. Also, check out the pressure, the 1,000 millibars. We're almost under 1,000, which leads us to believe that this storm, chances are it's going to hit at least a Category 1. Now, they are expecting some of it to calm down once it passes the Leeward and the Lesser Antilles Islands. The projected path is still very similar. And so is the time frame. As you can see here, by Monday, 8 a.m., they're expecting this storm to be underneath the Dominican Republic and Haiti. But in between there, guys, check it out. We could be seeing this thing as a hurricane, our first legit hurricane of the Atlantic season by the end of today, possibly. We could be seeing it tomorrow morning. It could be the end of today. It depends on how much this thing is actually growing, which it is showing signs of, by the way. So you see the letter H is here. That means it reaches hurricane strength. And then the S's mean it's actually going to be brought back down to a tropical storm. That is the assumption based on where this thing is heading as of now. I know this radar loop here is a little shifty, but what I want you to notice are these black puffs going on in the middle of it. Now, that is what we are looking at to see the strengthening of this storm. We are seeing that right now, in fact. I brought up another visible loop, the water vapor loop here. You could see these clouds boiling and bubbling out of the center of the storm. That means it's definitely growing. The storm is producing a lot of strong storms in the middle of it, and that convection, that spin, that counterclockwise spin is pulling in some of that Sahara dust. You can't see on this chart, but it is thriving. The storm is getting bigger. We're at 50 to 55 mile an hour sustained winds as of right now, which eventually leads us to look at the spaghetti plots again. Not much has changed as far as the spaghetti plots. The only thing concerning about this is that this storm does not seem to want to leave any of the water. We obviously don't want to predict any landfalls or anything like that and put people in danger, but it looks like this storm wants to stay in water, which could potentially make it a lot stronger. It has plenty of time to move. We still don't really have any idea where this thing's really going to end up. We are getting some of these extended spaghetti plots, I guess you can call them, where they predict the longer part of the path of the storm, and a lot of these are going right into the Gulf. Some take it to the east side of Florida. We got this one that kind of brings it way back out into the Atlantic Ocean. So the paths are still up for debate. They're going to change a lot over the next couple of days. But as time passes, guys, and I explain this a lot, that big Bermuda Atlantic pressure, that bubble morphs and changes and kind of slides into the U.S. and pulls back out. And those slight movements really play a big part on where this storm's going to go. These storms naturally want to hook in a northern direction. The only thing keeping this storm from doing that right now is the Bermuda high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. I like to show the tropical tidbits representation of this because you can really get a good idea for the line. So this is our Bermuda Atlantic high pressure bubble, and you can see how it extends all the way into that curve of the southeast states of the U.S. and kind of comes down into the warm water belt that we call it. And here is Gonzalo right here, and you can see these pressure lines are keeping it very far south. So this storm's going to stay in a slight northwest direction until this pressure lets up. And once it does let up, this thing could hook up at any moment. Like I said, these storms naturally want to go in a northern direction, especially in the northern hemisphere, spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Once this pressure lets up, this storm's going to want to shoot north. So it's just about where this storm's going to be when this pressure decides to release and allow it to come up in this direction, or if it's being pressed down long enough to come up into the Gulf. If it even makes it there at all, again, we are expecting some weakening with this storm based on the trajectory. So we got to keep an eye on it. I will be updating throughout the day today and tomorrow about the wind speeds and what exactly we are dealing with. And like I said, the gusts right now are up to about 55 miles per hour. We got 40 knots, 50 knots. This is a little outdated. We are just under 1,000 millibars for pressure. And of course, while I have you guys here, we got to talk about this disturbance right here that we've been talking about the last couple days. It definitely enhanced overnight. We're looking at 80% chance of cyclone formation. It's certainly going to absolutely at least be a big rainmaker for the coast of Texas and Louisiana. I will do a separate video on this and try to explain a little bit about what's going on here. It does look like a giant mess, but we do have that counterclockwise spin going on underneath the storm, and then eventually the top layer clouds here are blowing up, so we are seeing some strengthening with this as well, which is why it was pushed to that 80% chance of cyclone formation. Now what we got to ask ourselves is, does it have enough time between where it is now, which is right basically in the dead center of the Gulf, how much time it has before it really gets to Texas, and how much strengthening it's going to do. Now, a lot of things have to do with that, and that's what I'll get into in that part of the video a little later this afternoon. So here you have the satellite loop of what we're seeing right now. It's making its way to that southern area of Louisiana, so we are going to see some effects from this, if not already. Wind, rain, coastal situations. We might have flash flooding. That happens naturally with normal storms, let alone a possible tropical storm, which is what this is really leading to be. And this, last but certainly not least, can't go unnoticed. Ladies and gentlemen, last night, or early this morning rather, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck in Perryville, Alaska. Check this out. About 28 kilometers in depth. 215 people reported feeling this quake. That's clearly because of the lack of people that probably live in that area. This is a major, major earthquake, one of the biggest in years, 7.8. Especially at this depth too. And what we need to realize with this quake, guys, is the kind of fault lines that it follows and connects to, and that directly relates to the San Andreas Fault and the west coast of the U.S. and Canada. We can already see we've had a pretty decent quake, 5.4 off the coast of Canada. More than likely because of this quake here. Many aftershocks going on in this area as well. If anything happens with this quake, I know we had some tsunami information. I think that has been squashed since the actual quake took place. But anything else that pops up with this quake, I will report on, including the storms, guys. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot going on. I hope I kept your attention with a lot of this information. I know I throw a lot at you guys sometimes, but there's a lot to talk about, and I get excited. Pure and simple. We could be looking at Tropical Storm Hannah right here. I really like that name, by the way. All right, guys. Miss you all. I hope everyone's doing great. I will be here. If there's any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will get to them as soon as possible. If not, we'll talk the next update. Be safe. Bye-bye.